It's time for Goal Getting Podcast, and I'm your host, Tony Woodall. Welcome back, and I'm sorry, please ignore this for a moment. I always do. Just don't pay him any attention. It's just my subconscious mind. Do you hear those nagging thoughts and limiting beliefs when you're working on your goals? Is your subconscious mind trying to sabotage your success? Do you want to change those limiting beliefs and negative goal-sucking thoughts from your mind? Well, don't let your mind play goalie for the other team. Get the goals you set. Goal Getting Podcast teaches you how to turn those negative, limiting beliefs in your subconscious mind into positive, goal-setting, goal-getting, success-thinking beliefs with the goal-getting, don't just set 'em, get 'em program. Kick the crap to the curb and get your mind playing for your team. Let's listen to this week's episode and get the goals you set. Hello, this is Tony Woodall with Goal Getting Podcast. I want to welcome you to episode number 8, where we talk about what gets measured gets done. Today's podcast episode is really about, achieving the goals that we set and tracking those goals. Tom Peters, the author of In Search of Excellence and A Passion for Excellence, is often quoted as saying, what gets measured gets done. And he has a great essay on his website that I have a link to on our show notes at goalgettingpodcast.com, episode 8, where you can find out more about the message that he believes in that particular quote, what gets measured gets done. He didn't make that up. He says so himself in his essay that it's really an old saw, as he states, very old, but he definitely uses that mantra, if you might call it, in his business and in his training courses that he teaches. And he says that he demands of our participants action in our areas of customers, innovation, people, and leadership. And he totally believes in quantifying whenever possible. And that's really what we're talking about with what gets measured gets done, is quantification and measurements. And those two things, quantification and measurements, are used in all aspects of business. I've been in business for many years, as an IT manager running IT for a large mortgage company. I work with business analysts and project managers, and we try to quantify things like KPI, key performance indicators, and things like that, project goals, what we're going to be doing, and using the measurements throughout business to quantify, are we close to achieving our goals? Where are we, in maintaining that in our business? So, quantification is very important in all aspects of life and business. Checklists are also crucial for ensuring success. Pilots use checklists to do pre-flight and post-flight checks, just to ensure that we have, safe flights. And there's actually one of my favorite books that I've read and seminar that I saw is by Air Force fighter pilots that started a company called Afterburner, and they have a great book called Flawless Execution. And I'm very big on execution of your goals, and that's taking action, which is our next, that was our last episode, was taking action, and we did an action plan, and from there we want to start measurement and tracking of our goals, and because it is also important in goal setting. But the Afterburner crew, series or a group of fighter pilots from the Air Force, put together this program, and it talks about checklists. And I'm going to put again on the show notes links to Afterburner, so you might want to look at them for corporate type seminar on, project management, process improvement, utilizing checklists to maintain that flawless execution. The great thing about their program is that, again, they do focus on checklists and measurements, because that is critical in life and business, and it's also important in goal setting. Many companies today recommend and use measurement tools to track goals. Part of our goal getting, don't just set them program is also used to track goals and to, help us get motivated by using these tools that we have. And a lot of the companies that use these tools follow programs similar to what I've done on the goal getting, don't just set them, get them program. For example, I attended Xinnix, the Mortgage Academy, to learn how to be a loan officer, and that was an excellent training course, but we were trained to use a measurement tool to track our successes in that particular program. And it used some of the same techniques that I have learned through my life, through hypnosis and training, and through some of the other courses and things that I've learned about goal setting and goal achievement. And it's important to use these tools. And one of these tools that they teach is very similar to several of the techniques that I've used in the past. So I was able to adapt pretty well to those. I've actually created a measurement tool worksheet. It's fairly similar because I liked what they were doing at Xinnix. I think it's a great tool, kind of utilize some of that to get you a measurement tool of your own for a measurement worksheet for goal getting. And I put that on our website, and you can go out and pick up your copy of it at goalgettingpodcast.com/measure. And that will allow you to get out there, submit your email address so that we can send it to you and get you a free copy of that measurement worksheet we use for goal getting. In our No Lights, No Camera, Just Action, Episode 7, we talked about creating that action plan, as I mentioned. And in the goal-setting worksheet, we offered on the goalgettingpodcast.com/action link that we talked about in that previous episode, we asked you to start defining the action steps that you need to take to achieve the goals that you set. So we wanted you to define the how, which is part of that worksheet that we gave out last episode, the how being the action steps for each of those goals that you're trying to achieve. So we wanted you to think about those, write those down. Again, writing down your goals is very important. So we wanted you to write those goals down and write down each of the action steps that you believe are currently going to take to achieve those goals. And once you've defined that, what you need to do to achieve your goals, you can start creating the measurements so that you can ensure that you can track them to completion. Okay, so for those of you listening without a worksheet, I'm going to be going over this into some deep detail and give you an idea of what I'm recommending to be done. However, I want you to remember that when you get to a computer, you can download your copy at goalgettingpodcast.com/measure, and then later you can go back, listen to the podcast on our website or on iTunes or Stitcher, and you can follow along later. But if you want to listen along, please do. We want to make sure that you understand what you're going to need to do, and I'm going to go into depth. Now, in our worksheet, there's 11 key items for success in tracking your goals and your action steps that you have. Remember, when we talk about goals, they should be measurable. Part of the SMART goals, if you remember the SMART goals concept, the M in SMART goals is they have to be measurable. They have to be quantifiable. When you're writing out your goals, you want to make sure that there are things that you can do to track where you're headed, what you need to do, and make sure that you do each of those steps along the way. So we're going to be talking about 11 keys to success with tracking your goals as we go forward in this worksheet. So those of you who have the worksheet, you can look at that and we'll go along with it. Those of you who don't have the worksheet, listen closely. Again, don't worry. You'll be able to get that at goalgettingpodcast.com/measure and follow along later. But go ahead and listen so that you're understanding in your mind what we're talking about. So the first step is to track it daily. You really want to track what you're doing on a daily basis, because some of the goals that you have, some of the steps will be required to be done on a daily basis. Each worksheet is for 1 week, 7 days, but we want you to track what you do each day. And the worksheet is broken out into 7 days, Sunday through Monday, or Sunday through Saturday, on the worksheet. So there's a column for each day. and we want you to track it daily. And you really need to follow up and do it every single day. You want to check it and make sure that you're doing each step. And as you do each step, you really want to mark it off and add those points up. And at the end of the day, spend some time, make it a priority and set some time for your review of the worksheet, review of your goals, which is always a good thing, is to review your goals at a minimum of twice a day. But as you go through your day, you can check off what you've done and do the measurements that we need to do there. So track it daily. Make sure you make priority to follow up with your worksheet first thing in the morning to verify what you need to do each day. Get you a plan for the day. And at the end of the day, to review what the worksheet says, what you did each day, and, accumulate your measurements that we're tracking. Make sure you did the things that you needed to do each day. So track it daily. That's number one. Number two is I've broken the worksheet up into major and minor steps. Major steps, for example, if you look at the sample on the goalgettingpodcast.com website in the show notes, I talk about the sample will have, talking about weight loss. And one of the main and major steps that we have to do is maintain a 1,200 calorie a day diet. So every day, my goal for me is to maintain a 1,200 calorie a day maximum diet in calories. So you want to make sure that, that's one of my major steps. So if you have major steps, include those. Another major step that I have is I need to make sure that I have a 1,000 calorie deficit. So knowing if I'm doing 1,200 calories per day is my maximum, and I need to lose burn 1,000 calories. That's one of the other major goals, is to burn 1,000 calories per day extra. And that deficit, I need to be able to make sure that I have that as a major goal, major step that I have to do. And then within that, we have our minor steps or our action steps. What are the different action items that we have to take to achieve those major steps? Or what are some of the things, major steps could be things that are really important to the achievement of that goal. And the irregular action steps are just the specific, targets that we have and things that we need to do. So first is track it daily. 2, break it into some major and minor steps if applicable. And, if you look at the sample on the website and when you download it, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about on there. But look at the sample on the website. That'll give you some ideas. We're talking about weight loss, but it can really be other things. The third key is a meaningful measurement. Again, what gets measured gets done. There's a great quote by John E. Jones that I like. It says, what gets measured gets done. What gets measured and fed back gets done well. And what gets rewarded gets repeated. So it's what gets measured gets done. What gets measured and fed back gets done well. And what gets rewarded gets repeated. And that's kind of what we're talking about here with the measurements. We want you to define what type of measurement are you going to use? What are you going to use to motivate yourself? What's your measure? When I was in the Xinnix Loan Officer Academy, we used miles to be able to track that. Those were our measurements, were number of miles, because a lot of the lending companies use a Top Gun type motivational program for their top producers, and the top producers were awarded the Top Gun award. If you've seen the movie Top Gun, that will explain what it is. All of the fighter pilots, the Navy fighter pilots in that particular course, were trying to become the Top Gun. That was the top rated measurement within the training. You strive to become the Top Gun, and only one person in that class would be awarded the Top Gun. And that's kind of the way it is with a lot of sales organizations. They use that same mentality. And we did at the mortgage company that I was a loan officer for. The goal was to become a Top Gun, and you would get a plaque and an award and a company trip that they did annually for that if you met the quotas and the goals that you set. But you got a trophy and special recognition if you became a top gun. So everybody strived for that, and that was one of my goals, was to become the top gun. So they used miles. I personally like money. Money motivates me, and I like to, build my bank account. That's all, I work for money. I like money, and a lot of people are incented by money. So, I like to use money as opposed to miles. I'm not a fighter pilot now and don't plan on it. Don't do any flying, though I have taken some flying lessons and I love to fly. But that's not what motivates me. Money motivates me right now, so I like to track that. A lot of my reward goals are financial or self-improvement, career type goals. And if that's what your goals are, maybe money is what you need to motivate yourself. But if you're into flying, whatever your motivation is, whatever will get you motivated, that's what you really want to use for your measurements, Again, money is what I use, so I typically, when I use my measurements, I reward myself with being paid a certain amount of money for each of the tasks and steps that I have to achieve and work for to achieve that goal that I've set. So money is my motivator for a lot of things, and especially a lot of the goals. Obviously, if I'm doing a weight loss goal, money is not what I'm striving for, though it kind of is, because, not to be diabetic or not to, or to be healthy, and, it will save me a lot of money in the long run. So it kind of is a motivator even there. So whatever your meaningful measurement is, whether it's miles, thinking about a pilot or Top Gun type approach, or if it's money, building a large bank account, a mental bank account, that also is what you could use to do that. Again, I use money to build a mental bank account, and part of the goal getting Don't Just Set 'em program is based off the mental bank program by Dr. John Kappas, and we'll talk more about that as we get into the program and learning more about how to overcome our subconscious mind's negative programming and limiting beliefs that we may have. But right now, let's work on measuring by using some sort of meaningful measurement for you. The fourth step, or the fourth key to the success with tracking your goals, is goals for each step or task. What are the, minimum goal for each one of those steps? For example, if it's weight loss, if you look at the sample that I have on the goal getting Don't Just Set 'em show notes for episode 8, you will see that, I've outlined several of the action steps for, exercise for burning calories, such as, push-ups, sit-ups, crunches, weightlifting, whatever the goal is each day. I have a specific goal for each step or task. So, if my goal is to do 100 push-ups a day, which I'm not there yet on that, you got to start with one. I'm not anywhere close to 100 yet. But, whatever your goal is each day, and you can change this as you go along in your goal list, you can set that. But you want to have a goal for each one of those tasks. What is it going to take for you to do each one of those days? One of the things when I was a loan officer, obviously closing loans is when I got paid. So that was very important to have a closed loan, but that was one of my goals. I got paid a lot mentally and physically with, having a loan close. But I also had certain tasks that would go towards creating that closing. I couldn't do a closing if I didn't have a customer. So doing things that, in steps that would get me a customer was also important and was one of my tasks. Doing presentations to real estate offices. And, if you're in sales, one of the things that you have to do is presentations. And presentations are critical when you're trying to, do sales and, present to, prospects. You want to be able to count that very highly in your measurements, because without doing presentations or without talking to the clients or prospects or anything like that, when you're in sales, you're not going to have the clients and the customers. So you want to make sure that, when you're doing this, that you're giving yourself the credit and making those items the tasks that you need to be working on as part of your goal. So that's one of the things that I do on the, worksheet is making sure that you keep track of goals for each of the steps. You also want to have a minimum weekly targets. Number 5 of our keys to success with the goal tracking worksheet is the weekly targets that you want to set for each step. What do I want to do this week? What are the minimum amount of values? And we take our goal amount and we, calculate that by the 7 days per week and get our minimum weekly targets for each step. And we want to make sure that we try to keep our goal for that task to total up when we do our tasks. We want to set those up so that, if we're doing our tasks 7 days a week, that we have those counted as the weekly totals. If we're only doing them 3 days a week, if we're doing certain exercises on your chest, arms, or legs, let's say on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, however you're doing that, if it's only 3 days a week, you're going to calculate it based on that. So you want to make sure that you have a minimum weekly targets for each step, as we show in our sample there. Number 6, our 6th key element that we want to have on our worksheet and that we try to keep track of is our weekly totals for each step. How did we do each week? Because we're trying to figure out what do I want to do each week, and then how did we do each week? So we're going to be keeping track on a daily basis, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to be keeping track of that every week. How did I do this entire week on these totals? So we're going to have a weekly totals column for each of the steps that we're undertaking. Item number 7, task or key number 7 for the tracking worksheet, the goal setting worksheet, is the totals for each day, or daily totals for each step. How did I do each day? So we're tracking by week. We're tracking each day to make sure that we did it. We're trying to be as methodical and as, measurable as we can on these to keep track of it. So we want to keep track of daily totals for each of the steps as well on our chart that we're following. Key number 8 is the totals for all steps for the week. How much did I do this week for all of the steps? And then key number 9 is our total accumulated measurements for the total length of the time that we're doing here. Again, our goal is to get as much as we can in this, and we want to get a total of the actual total for the ending of the week for the actual totals for a day and week for the worksheet. So we're going to total it up. So as we go across the bottom, for each day and week, the day of the week, we want to get our totals. We want to get our totals for, everything all totaled up at the bottom. So as you're going through this and nightly to calculate your totals, we want to make sure that we have our total accumulated measurement. Keep our totals, because we're going to keep these totals for, a long period of time. Keep this up as we're going. So we want to know what our total measurement is to date as we're going through there. So on the bottom, I've got a box that shows measure to date, and that's where we want to keep that accumulated measurement as we go through, from each of the days and weeks that we do this. It may take us 5-6 weeks or even months to do this, but we want to measure and keep that total to date on each worksheet. So every week you're going to put in your totals on there. You've got a space for the week number. So each week, week number 1, your measure to date on our sample, for example, is 12,200. That's week number 1. So our average weekly measure is 12,200 for the first week. Obviously, if we do another 12,200 and we're into 2 weeks, our average weekly measure will still be, 12,200 because we did 4 and 2 weeks and et cetera. So, but we're going to keep track of that as we go. We also have to keep our item number 10 is our average weekly measurement. We want to keep an average total over this length of time. So key number 10 is the average weekly measurement that we're going to be tracking over this period of time that we're working on this goal, to keep track of those numbers. And we're going to try to keep building those up, whether it's miles, money, whatever you're using as your measurement. We're going to keep adding those up as we go across throughout this process. So make sure you do that. And one of the most important key elements within this goal measurement worksheet is key number 11, and that's the signature and date that are on each worksheet. And at the end of the week, when you total all this up and you make your total measurements for the week and for your, year to date or goal to date totals, you want to sign that worksheet at the bottom, put the date for that week, because when you sign something, when you're, putting your signature on something, you're actually, symbolizing a commitment that you've made. And it's very important that you make a commitment with yourself to achieve these goals. And that's part of this mentality in this measurement is I'm saying I'm tracking this, I'm earning these rewards, these measurements that I'm earning each time I do one of these tasks. I'm earning more and more, and I'm building up my totals, my mental bank, my total mileage, whatever it is you're tracking your measurement. I'm building that up, and I'm getting better, and I'm getting better, and I'm committed to this, so I'm going to sign my name to this and symbolize that I am committed to this. So I want you to make sure that you put a signature and a date on that every single week, because it really is important. It's part of the mental process to commit to this and to start building these rewards and these measurements so that we can build strong habits to help us achieve the goals that we've set here. So I want to just make sure that you've got everything else, the top 11 steps here for success in the measurement and tracking of this measurement worksheet for goal getting is to, number 1, track it daily, track it every day. Set up major and minor steps is number 2. You want to make sure if you have items that are critical to your success that you put those in a major milestone. Set up a meaningful measurement, whether that be motivation by miles, money, whatever it is that motivates you, set that up. Step number 4 is have a goal for each step or a task for each step. For each activity, each action, you want to have a specific goal for that. You want to set up a minimum weekly targets for each step. Key number 5 is a minimum weekly targets for each step. What do I want to do this week? Key number 6 is weekly totals for each step. How did I do this week? We want to know every week how we did for each of those action items and action steps that we're working on. Key number 7, daily totals for all steps. How did I do today on all of these? Key number 8, totals for all steps for the week. How much did I do this week? Key number 9 is total accumulated measurements. How did I do over this entire week, and how have I been doing consistently through this process? How much have I earned as part of this goal going through the entire goal to date, not year to date necessarily or month to date, but goal to date, GTD. And then what's your average weekly measurement? Key number 10, what's your average total over the length of the goal to date? And then again, most importantly, please make sure that you sign and date that, put your signature on there, your commitment to this process, to these goals. You want to symbolize that you are committed to this. So these are the 11 steps there that are very key to, completing this goal measurement worksheet. Again, remember, what gets measured gets done, and what gets measured gets fed back gets done better, and what gets rewarded gets repeated. And that's why we want to follow this goal measurement worksheet as much as possible. Do it well, keep up with it, because it will help you continue to be the person that you want to be. So that's the task for today. The episode is talking about goal measurement. What gets measured gets done. If you go to the goalgettingpodcast.com/measure, you can download your blank copy of the worksheet so you can fill it out. It's a PDF form. The process is not difficult, but it's important that we follow that on each of your goals so that you know what you're trying to accomplish and how you're doing, so that you can follow up with yourself going forward. Again, my name is Tony Woodall with the Goal Getting Podcast. I want to thank you for listening. It's very important that you get out of this what you can so that you can get the goals you set, because that's really what I'm here for, is to help you achieve what you want to do, to achieve your goals, whether it be buying a new home, whether it be starting a business, whether it be losing weight, whether it be quitting smoking, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that your goal is that you're trying to achieve, the Goal Getting Podcast can help you, and we're here to do that. The Goal Getting Don't Just Set 'em, Get 'em program is tried and true. We've worked with several people that have done this myself, and then the techniques that I share are items that I learned when I was a hypnotherapist through Hypnosis Motivation Institute and the Mental Bank Method from Dr. John Kappas, as well as all of the years of analyzing goal setting, goal achievement, and motivational speakers. So again, hopefully you're learning. Keep up. If you would, please fill out a comment if you have any questions or suggestions of ways we can make the Goal Getting Podcast better. I look forward to, getting your feedback and listening to you, finding out how we can make it better for you. Thank you very much, and have a great day and a great week. This is Tony Woodall with Goal Getting Podcast, and we'll chat with you next week. Have a great week. Thank you. That was great music. That was Baccarat by my good friend Mark Sensinger. If you really want to have some excellent music for a wedding, for bar mitzvah, for any other type of event, you should contact Mark at marksensinger.com. Mark is a wonderful composer out of the Boston area. Mark has written pieces for symphony orchestras, Boston Pops, several different events in the Boston and New England area. I highly recommend you check out Mark at marksensinger.com. See if he can't come up with something good for you, whether it's wedding, birthday, anniversary. Have him create a lasting and a wonderful score that will help you understand how important that particular date or event is for you. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. That's Baccarat from Mark Sensinger at marksensinger.com.